everyone, I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Adam.
And welcome to your weekly social. So today we're gonna talk about social media.
Okay.
And
because we usually do that, right?
we usually do.
Okay.
That's kind of what the weekly social's for. But
Gotcha.
Sometimes one day, maybe we'll talk about something else. But so we're gonna talk about social media and employers using that to kind of use it as like a reference and a resource in hiring people.
Sure. Okay. That's been around for a while, but what's new?
Just trying to, and there's a study on it. There was some research done, mostly through LinkedIn, on whether or not it's basically reliable.
Okay.
And something that.
And only LinkedIn.
It's mainly LinkedIn, but there is some like Twitter, Facebook,
Gotcha.
maybe Instagram in there, but mostly the study was focused mainly on LinkedIn.
Okay. And so what did they find in the study?
So basically, what they found out was that it's honestly kind of useless. You can't really tell too much about a person and social media in its whole, outside of even just LinkedIn, isn't always necessarily reliable.
And more specifically, a good part of it was looking at the productivity, effectiveness, and fit. However, the study only really looked at a person in the sales field and the sales field job performance. So some of the data, as I looked at it, was a little bit skewed upon what they're trying to go for. And granted, they did say that looking at social media, and they said specifically LinkedIn and the way that people post on LinkedIn did create biases for or against the individual that were not necessarily predictors of success. Which, okay, then why do we use LinkedIn? Aside from prospecting. But there are some equal opportunity issues that do occur with doing that. So then to start the conversation, have you ever hidden things on any of your profiles because of job-related things? Or like knowing that you're gonna be scoped for a job or...
No. Honestly, no. Either a lot of my profiles are already set to private, and usually what I post on my personal social media accounts is something that I'm usually okay with friends, family, and even strangers, people that I don't know, seeing at some point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I am aware of it a lot. I am, because then sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I could post this, and I'm like, oh well, do I want to? Like how, even with my own personal life and just with family, like, do I really want to post where I'm at with my family right now? I'll give it a day and then post it a day later. Just extra security, just something to be aware of, that I do at least.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And going back to the equal opportunity, there is an issue here with that. A lot of older companies, specifically older companies, some newer ones too, but they'll look for people who have families, because if you have a family, typically that means you're going to be in your job longer than someone who's single and growing in their career. And so in a job interview, I'm not really able to ask you like, oh, do you have a family? Do you intend to stay here for an extended period of time? Like that's kind of out of the question, because I'm not looking at fit or function at that level. Those are two main things you want to try and hire for. But then it does create a unfair bias if I go to your Facebook and I see, oh wow, you do have a family. Oh, but their profile, the other person's profile is private. So I'm gonna go with the family man or the family lady to work through that. And that does create a lot of unfairness and doesn't predict really that if they're going to be a good fit or be successful and productive in the job. Mm-hmm. That being said, I have totally gone through and hidden things. And I didn't party, I wasn't crazy. But I do remember pictures at like a barbecue, and they did have red Solo cups.
Oh.
There was no alcohol at the event.
They were just cups.
They were just cups. Those were the cups they had.
But those cups usually are associated with
with
having something there. So.
And so I went in and untagged myself from quite a bunch of stuff. Just because I was up for jobs. And at the time, and this was a few years ago, because I'm old. And I do believe I personally believe, anecdotally, that what I have heard from other recruiting firms is even if you have your profile set to private, they absolutely can see it. That there are deals with Facebook and the other giants to be able to have access to that data information.
That's something to remember.
Absolutely. And so I grew up in that age, and you just made sure that everything was spit clean, polished, no issues.
Yeah, and even on platforms like Twitter, where if you're like me, maybe you started your Twitter when you were, I think I was still pretty young. I don't remember how old I was, but I made one and then never used it, and then went on it again in like middle school, early high school,
Sure.
and was on it. And the things you say when you're young, you don't really know what you're talking about. And as time goes on, maybe you tweet more things happen, your feed gets cluttered, but that doesn't stop people from searching.
Oh, absolutely.
For specific things, and that's come up in a lot of other things where people have used it to kind of be like, oh, you said this today, but you said this like 4 years ago.
Exactly.
And 4 years is a jump, but even if you said this today and this is something you said a month ago, that could still be something that people can look back on, especially if your Twitter profile is on a public setting.
That, and even if you've never posted, being as a recruiter, you might look at who is this person following, and then make biased judgments based on that. And the new thing that I think a lot of companies have to look at too is the person just using it, or are they trying to be a content creator?
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of like almost like a second job at that point.
Yeah, it can end up being a second job. There are a lot of content creators, and I see people they have their personal accounts, and then they have their another separate account that they use too, for content creation, and they'll kind of share both accounts back and forth.
Right.
And it's interesting to kind of see how the personalities change between those two accounts. Sometimes even you have the personal account where maybe someone's one way, and then you have the creative account where they're trying to present themselves in a certain manner, and it's almost two different people. And that's always really interesting for me to observe.
Absolutely. And for the recruiter too, in that scenario of like, are they really different people, right? Because you may be hiring them to be that content creator and to have that voice for your company as possibly an influencer or a content creator for your brand. You might also be looking at having them create content and get rid of their brand. Or are they allowed to moonlight essentially with that setup? It creates a lot more issues, tensions, and HR paperwork at the end of the day.
Yeah. Social media is becoming a big part of, someone's everyday life. Like, I come here and I work on social media accounts for separate clients, and then I go home and I go on my own social media accounts. Whether or not I'm posting, I'm still there, and I'm creating some form of presence while I'm there. People can see the things that you're liking, the things that you're resharing, everything that you're doing. Even though there are some privacy settings that you can mess with to limit that, it's still something that, future employers, recruiters, anyone can look into and use it as their own personal way to say yes or no.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. And the other thing that we would really encourage other companies to do is to have a social media policy for your company. Where we've seen a lot over the last 2 years specifically is someone even reposting or resharing something and then getting fired over it. Which to us is a really big surprise, just because there may not be a social media policy in place, but there's still disciplinary action with it. And so to keep yourself legal, to keep yourself safe, we would recommend having that policy saying, when you work for this organization, there is a certain level of integrity and image that you as an employee get pulled into with it.
And it protects you as the employee, and it protects the business, and you're now representing a company, so it's a good thing to have and to be aware of in those times.
Now, earlier you were mentioning something about like TikTok resumes.
Yeah, there was an article that I had seen a while back where people are looking into using TikTok as a way to kind of create your own resume, or just basically use that to kind of get you hired with that influencer culture that's happening, especially on that platform.
So are they like printing out their paper and then like TikToking their resume, or like what is that?
My understanding is, and we'll find the article and link it below, but my understanding of it was that it's actually a video of you kind of talking about yourself and your ability. So like a video resume.
Sure.
But on TikTok and in their creator platform, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll link that down below.
It's something to look into and be aware of, at least.
For sure. Anyways, that's all we had for today. If you like this type of content, please do subscribe, hit the bells, follow us on Instagram and the Facebook and the Tickety Talk. We don't have a Snappity Chat yet, and that's okay. We're okay with that.
Yeah.
We do have Pinterest, though.
We do.
Check out our Pinterest.
We have Pinterest boards. One for everyone that works in the office, too. So you can kind of learn a bit about us.
Yeah. That being said, have a wonderful day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.